Okay, now that we've got our background in motion, the next thing that we can look at doing is setting up a controller inside our room. And what we want to do with that is it's going to keep track of sort of things in the background. So we'll put a scoreboard up here at the top. We'll put scores over in the corner. We'll have our lives here in the middle and a health bar over here. And then we'll also keep track of some things, just how many points you've scored and how many lives you have left, things like that. It'll be sort of taking a look at whether it's okay to move to the next level, things of those nature. So this controller is going to be basically running in the background, just monitoring the status of the game and displaying information as necessary. Because of that, we do not need it to be visible with a sprite. We're going to actually do the drawing of the scoreboard within the object controller itself. So I'm going to close out of this room and I'm going to go into my workspace. And basically what we want to do is we want to create a whole new object. Okay. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on my objects folder and I'm just going to close my window. So click on my objects folder and I can close that if I want, but just make sure that the objects folder is highlighted. Click on the plus to create a new asset. This is going to be an object and we're going to create that. I'm going to close my inspector for right now. I don't need it. I'm going to close my asset browser. I don't need it. So this object is going to be a controller. Now, if you want to keep the same naming structure and go obj controller like that, that's fine with me. If you want to just call it controller, since we're not going to be using a sprite, we can get away with doing this since this will be the only object in the game with this name, or the only asset, I should say, with this name. So it's up to you. You can call it controller, obj controller, whatever you like. We are not going to give it a sprite, okay? So basically what we want to do is we want to draw a rectangle up at the top of the screen, and not very thick, right? Like this thickness of, this right here, okay? And so we're going to get the object controller to do that for us. So we're going to go to add event, and you can see sort of down here there is draw, and we're just going to do draw right here, okay? It's just a basic drawing event. We don't need to draw a GUI or anything like that. Okay. So we have our draw event. Now we want to go ahead and draw a rectangle. So as I scroll down here, there's going to be a category for drawing. So I can see that right here, some bunch of different things that I can do. All right, so I'm going to draw just a basic rectangle. So I'm just going to grab this draw rectangle and I'm going to bring it out, okay? Now, what it's asking for is the left and top corner and the bottom and right corner. So the left top corner and then down here the bottom right corner, and then it will be able to finish drawing the rectangle for me. So I need to know what these coordinates are of where I want this rectangle to appear. Well, I want it to appear in the top left-hand corner. And I know that left at the left side is 0 and top is 0. So I actually can leave those alone. I'm not going to make this relative because I want it to be at 0, 0. If I make it relative, then wherever I put the controller in the room, that's where it's going to start drawing. So if I put the controller here, it's going to put a rectangle right there, and that's going to be ridiculous. So 0, 0 is fine. For the right, I want to go all the way across my room. So what I need to put in here is I need to put in here either that exact number, which I think is 1366, or I can just type in room width and grab room width right there and use that instead. Again, this is not going to be relative, okay? As for the bottom, I'm going to say bottom is going to be about 25 pixels. That's about how thick that is. We'll sort of figure that out as we go. And then I also want to set the color, and I should have actually done this first. Setting the color is this bucket right here, okay? It's red, it looks like a paint bucket. I'm going to put this above on top, just like that. I have a black background with white stars. I want something that contrasts with that, so I'm going to click on this white square right here, and I can start messing about. I can just slide this around, or I can slide these sliders around. Basically, this is the color I'm creating. This is my old color here. I can just do a basic color if I just want to punch that in, or like I said, you can kind of move this around a little bit however you want. I can also slide the hue down here to make it a little bit darker. So I might do kind of like a dark blue and hit OK there. Now, this isn't in my room yet. I could go ahead and hit play, and when I do, I'm not going to see that rectangle that I just created. So I'm going to take that out. What I need to do is put it in my room. So I'm going to click on my asset browser over here. and I'm going to go to my rooms, open up my level 1 room. You'll see that I dropped a second enemy in here. You'll see why in just a second. But for right now, you don't have to put a second enemy in. But if you wanted to while we're here, just grab an object enemy and put another one in, and that's fine. Make sure, I'm sorry, that was a mistake right there. Let me delete that. Make sure you have instances selected before you do that. And then you could bring your object enemy in, no problem. All right. You could also delete it and get rid of it if you wanted to. So with instances selected, I'm going to go down, I'm going to grab my object controller, I'm going to put it in the room. I can put it anywhere I want, but notice that it's a little bit small, but it is a gray circle with a white question mark. And basically, GameMaker is saying, hey, you got an object in here, but you don't have a sprite with it. I don't know what it's going to look like, so I'm just going to put this little question mark logo to symbolize that, hey, that's right there. And that's fine. We don't want it to have a sprite, so I'm good with that. And like I said, because we didn't make the rectangle relative, I can put this anywhere in the room that I like. If I just want to kind of put it down here in the bottom corner to get out of my way, I can. Okay, so I'm just going to put that in, and now when I click on play, you'll see that a dark blue rectangle has appeared up here at the screen. All right, so that doesn't quite look the way that I want. I'm going to close out my level 1 room. I'm going to take a look at this again. Minimize that. I'm going to close that. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I didn't fill it in. So it's just this outline of the blue. So I need to make sure that I check this fill right there. And now when I click on play, I can take a look at this. There's my nice blue kind of menu bar up at the top. Peachy. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to put some text up there that says, you know, the score. So I'm going to come over here and let me just sort of move this over a little bit so I can see these things. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to, within drawing, I just blew right by it. Where did it go? Within drawing, I'm going to grab this draw a value. Okay, so I'm going to bring this out. And the caption is what I want it to say. I'm going to have the caption be score. Okay. And then the value is going to be the score variable. So I'm going to type in score here, but I'm going to use this built-in variable and just click on that so that I am doing the score. And this should have a quote at the beginning of it like this. If you don't, that could be really messy. The position is right now 0, 0, which is the very top corner. I don't quite want it right there. I want it to come off the left-hand side, maybe 5 pixels, and drop down from the top, maybe 2 pixels. Again, this is not relative. We want it to be wherever 5.2 is in the room. Now, there's going to be a problem. Watch what happens when I click on play. I click on play, and I don't see the word score there. Well, it's actually there, but because I never changed the color, it's the same color as this background. So I have this dark blue score on a dark blue background. So I've got to change the color again. So I set the color as blue the first time. I'm going to go ahead and bring that in between here. So I've got to set the color again to a different color. I'll keep it on white. And now when I click on play, you'll see the word score does show up. And I've got a 0 because that's the variable score right there. Cool. All right, so now what I want to do is when I play the game, you'll notice that the score doesn't go up. So if I shoot these things, nothing happens, right? The score is still 0. So we want that score to go up. So I'm going to close this out. And what I want to do is I want to open up my object enemy 1. This is where I have the collision event with the object laser. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that to make sure I have that open. And what we've got here in this is we've got the destroy the other, which is the laser beam that hit it. That's going to get destroyed. We have these 2 effects, and then we're destroying the self, which is the actual enemy itself. So now what I want to do is I want to draw the variable, or I want to assign the value of a variable. Okay. So here under common, this very first button, this blue VAR button, I'm going to drag this out, and I can put it anywhere above the destroy instance that I want. So I have this assigned variable. The variable I'm going to assign is score. So I'm going to click on the built-in variable score just like that. Now the value is, well, how many points do I want to get when I destroy this enemy? And this is sort of up to you. Is this going to be a high scoring game where you might get millions of points? Is it a lower scoring game where 1,000 points is a lot? So maybe you give it a value of 1, maybe you give it a value of 50 or 1,000 or 500, whatever. It's up to you completely. I'm going to give it a value of 50. Now I just made a mistake, and you might know already what it is, but watch what happens when I play. I'm going to destroy this first enemy. I get my 50 points. I'm going to destroy the second enemy, but my score did not go up. Hopefully you figured this out, but if you didn't, the reason is relative. Basically, if I leave it unchecked, every time I hit an enemy, it will be 50. If I check the relative, then it will add 50 to whatever the score was before. So now watch what happens. I go click on play, and I can take out both these guys. There's my 50 points, and I missed. And now you can see I'm up at 100 points, okay? So that's how I'm going to keep track of my score. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to go into your level 1 room and start putting in lots and lots of enemies. Pretty soon, we are actually going to delete these enemies altogether and use something called a timeline to start bringing in waves of energy, because we have more waves of enemy, because then we have more control over how those enemies come in, when they come in, when the boss comes in, as opposed to dropping everything in the room at once and then having it be over in 5 or 10 seconds. So that's what we're going to start setting up next, is our timelines.